Hello, y'all. It doesn't look like anyone has... Oh, yeah, we have some people here already. Let me know where you're watching from today. It is a beautiful day here. I hope everyone is enjoying their day wherever you are. This is only my second time doing a live stream. Last time, I never did figure out how to post the comments on the main screen so everyone can see which comment or question I'm referring to. But it should be fine since there won't be many people. We should be able to follow along easily in the little chat box there. So this is how I'm going to organize the video. First, I'm going to go through the topic of the video, which is how Mexico has changed since I started coming here in 2005, summer of 2005, until now. That way, if people are watching from home, they can just get to the meat of the video. Then that should take about 10 minutes. Then afterwards, I'll take any questions or comments from the chat box. From LA. Thanks for being here. So as I said, I started coming to Mexico in 2005, and up until I moved here in June of 2023, I would come for at least 2 weeks on average once a year. If you don't know, my ex-husband is from Mexico, so I got a taste of Mexico living back in the States too, not just while visiting here. So I would say one of the biggest differences has been the phone. When I first started coming in 2005, cell phones were just starting to become like the norm in the US, where like your average person would have a cell phone. I graduated high school in 2004, just to give you a better idea. And we'll go more into technology in a minute, but specifically talking about phones. When it was still the norm for a lot of households to have house phones, of course, people had house phones in Mexico too, but phone booths were also very common. And not just your phone booth, like your pay phone on the street, that was a thing too, but actual like phone booths being a business where you would go into what would be like a store, but instead of having chips and chocolate bars, they would have like 4 or 5 to 10 telephones. And basically what would happen is, let's say I call my mom on a Tuesday. I would tell her, okay, Mom, call me next Tuesday at 5 o'clock at this number again. And then I would have to go back to that business Tuesday at 5 and wait for my mom to call. And then the lady or man that runs the business would say, Jenny, you have a phone call. And I would go up and use the phone. So it's kind of interesting. And those do not exist at all in Mexico, at least not that I have seen. I haven't seen that in ages. Maybe in some little corner of Mexico it might, but I have not seen that in a long time. Let me know if you've seen it in the last few years here in Mexico. Going along the same lines, as far as like the payphones, the public payphones on the street, instead of putting coins, which I believe you could put coins, you would have what looks like a debit card now. It was like a little card. It had the little chip on it too, and you would insert that into the payphone, and the card would tell you how much credit you have, and use that to make your call instead of coins. But again, I think there were coins too, but it's been so long ago, I can't recall. And I'll never forget, because my little card, my phone card, had this gorgeous soccer player, like dark, long hair. He was just beautiful. I actually saved that card up until I got rid of everything to move here to Mexico. Hi, Sedona. Hi, Sinley. Thanks for being here today. So sticking along the same lines, we'll talk about technology. I feel like Mexico has stayed up like at the US's pace when it comes to technology rather. Just maybe a few years behind. So maybe if cell phones were becoming popular in the US in the 2005 to 2010, maybe in Mexico is like 2010 to 2015. Man, like it all feels like yesterday to me, but it's already 2024. Anybody else, like you hear the the year 2000, and it feels like just a few years ago, and you're like, wait, no, this is crazy. And it's already March. Can you believe February flew by, at least for me? Yeah, so Mexico has done a pretty good job at staying up with technology. I would say if it's ever behind, is maybe for financial reasons. So even if maybe internet was available X amount of years ago, maybe families that didn't commonly have it, but because of financial reasons, not because it didn't exist. Um, and then the last thing in regards to technology, I would say it is still a bit of a problem, but not as much, is when the internet was already very commonly used to like search for a business in the US, like, hey, I need to find a doctor, you would do what, like a Yahoo search? Or what was the other one? Bing? What were the other search engines back then before Google? It's been ages, guys. When that was already common to do a search in the U.S. to find like a restaurant or a doctor or whatever, in Mexico it was still pretty near impossible to find businesses online. And again, I think it's still a bit of a problem, although businesses do have a lot more of a presence online than they used to, especially on Facebook and Instagram. Not a lot of businesses have web pages, although there are some that do. But I think, again, it's for financial reasons because anybody can open a Facebook page or an Instagram page for free, whereas a website, obviously, that cost. So, yeah, it can be a little frustrating, especially as a newcomer, because you're trying to search for something and it may just not be popping up. Whereas if you grow up in the area, of course, you know like what businesses have been around for ages, which ones are new, and you can point someone in the right direction. But if you're new, it's a little harder. Okay, big change. When I first started coming, 1 US dollar was 10 pesos. And now today it's at $1 to 17 pesos and 2 cents. Of course, I missed the day when it was like $1 to 22 pesos, but at least it's been hovering around that 17 peso mark and it hasn't been dropping. I was getting nervous there for a while. It was looking like it was going down and down and down. But quick story about my first time to Mexico. Of course, like I knew in my mind that the currencies were different, but I walked into a store and I saw a box of cereal. I don't remember how much it cost, but let's say it said like 50 pesos, which is a little under $3. Well, my brain just saw the 50, and being from the US, that just seems like a big number. And then of course, if you do the math, it's like, okay, that's a normal price for cereal. But I just remember seeing the large prices on the shelf and having like that sticker shock. I had to calm myself down for a second. Next, when I first came to Mexico, people were still dressing fairly modestly. Like rarely would you see someone in shorts, unless you're like on a coastal town or a beach area, but not just your average person walking around central Mexico. And everyone would be like covered, like no cleavage, especially no short shorts. But maybe starting in 2017 or so, and I will say this was in Guadalajara, which is a more liberal city, I started noticing people wearing like those fishnet shirts that are you're basically wearing a bra because you can see through the fishnet. But now even in my like small town, more conservative area, I'm seeing people wearing that or crop tops, and that was just unheard of. You know, almost 20 years ago now. Man, almost 20 years ago. Like I was saying, time just flies by, guys. I'll also put this under the category of being modest, but I remember going to the store with my now ex-mother-in-law, and we just went to this little convenience store and she bought some chips and milk and cheese or whatever, and they put it in like your typical grocery bag. And then she also bought some pads, for periods, and they put that in a black bag. because it was still not shameful, but maybe like embarrassing to be walking around where everyone can see your pads or tampons through your bag. FYI, tampons are not that common here. But yeah, I haven't seen that in a while either. What else? Going along the lines with clothing, typically speaking, Mexico gets put, we'll say Mexico puts a little bit more effort into getting ready whenever they're going out. Even if they're just going to go out to the center of town for an ice cream, they usually make an effort. They're not going to go in their gym clothes or their yoga pants with a free t-shirt they won 10 years ago. Except for in the past, I would say in the past year, I have noticed people wearing sweatpants. Like in the winter, I would say, okay, you have to stay warm, right? It's a little bit more normal. But like even on a nicer day, people wearing like their sweatpants, their yoga pants, their gym clothes, even if they're not going to do an activity that requires such clothing. So it is becoming much more common, much more acceptable. Thank goodness, because I live in my gym clothes. Basically, my gym clothes are my everyday wear and my pajamas. So I like that they're embracing that culture more, because I really hate getting ready, folks. It's so uncomfortable. And for those of you that may not speak Spanish, I'm going to teach you a phrase here. I'll put it in the chat box. The phrase is andar de fodonga if you're a woman, or andar de fodongo if you're a man, which is kind of like to dress like a slob. So I always say that, ando de fodonga, I'm dressed like a slob today. But I'm so thankful for that. Yeah, but as far as the modesty and the dressing up, like there still is an element to that. People kind of know me for wearing my shorts and t-shirts because it's acceptable, but it's not the 100% norm here. Like most people still are wearing pants. What else do I have for you here? When I first started coming, most of your beverages were still coming in glass bottles, like your glass Coke bottles, or Boing, which is a brand of juice here, all in glass bottles. Just I don't know when. At some point, they started transitioning more slowly to like plastic bottles, but you still will find a lot of glass soda bottles and glass juice bottles. Just the plastic is also prevalent now, and they do like reuse those. They save them. The guy comes, picks them up, brings full ones, takes the old ones off, washes them. They refill them, and eventually you'll get those back. While plastic is becoming more common for beverages, plastic in general is becoming less common. A lot of stores will not offer you plastic bags. Even if you ask for them, they might simply not have it. Like even at Walmart, if you ask for a bag, they don't have them. You just bring your own, or you put it in the cart and go toss it in the car all loose. Or some stores might charge you like 1 peso if you ask for a bag, which I fully support. It has always been standard practice in Mexico to bring your own shopping bags. It's just they're being extra diligent about avoiding the use of plastic bags. I feel like you'll still get them to put your produce in. Like if you get some strawberries or something, they'll put it in a little plastic bag. But as far as like to carry your groceries, no, they're not offering those as more. And when they do use the plastic bags, especially like the little produce bags, I've noticed a lot of them say biodegradable, or if you get a straw at a restaurant, they're using more and more like paper straws instead of plastic straws or biodegradable plastic. And in the US, while this is common too, I would say in the US it's more for like large cities or like a place you would expect it. Like if you went to a sustainable store or a vegan restaurant, like that's the kind of crowd that expects that. But I'm talking about like you just go to the market and get your fruits and vegetables and they offer you a biodegradable bag. And the last thing, I would say this is common in most countries besides the US, except for in large cities in the US, where businesses basically look like garages. You have a garage, you have literally a garage door that slides up and down. When I first started coming to Mexico, you would just lift up your garage door to your business, and then that is a wide open space for the customers to come in and out, as well as the flies. And it was just like an open air kind of business that is still very, very common here in Mexico, but it's becoming more common for people to put a glass door behind the garage door so you can keep it closed if you want to keep the flies out, or depending on the weather too. So that's nice because it is frustrating if you're trying to eat and the flies are just attacking you. So it's nice, but it is another expense, which I think is why just having the plain garage door has lasted so long. Yeah, so that is all I have for you all today. If you've been to Mexico or you live here, let me know what kind of observations you've seen, and I'll take any questions or comments you guys have. Give everyone a second to type. And I would love to know, like, what brought you to the channel too. Are you planning to move to Mexico? Do you already live here? You have some kind of ties here? Oh, you can see Ruthie taking a nap there. Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you understand. I did put on a dress to go to church today. That's the other thing. Like, when I first moved here, and I went to find a church for the first time, like, I put on a dress just because I know, like, they usually make an effort, and I see people wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I'm like, great. But I was kind of in a dress mood today. Okay, we'll give everyone about 1 more minute to think of any questions, and if there aren't any, then we will go ahead and end things there. We started visiting Baja and fell in love with it. I have not been to Baja yet. We found your channel when we started looking into the residency process. We also used the Phoenix consulate. Did you have a good experience there in Phoenix? I had a horrible one the first time and a great one the second time. But kinetic cannons were the ones that suggested it, which is why I went which is why I went there. My English gets worse by the day here. No, I appreciate that. Going places with the Gannies. No, that's what I love about YouTube. Like, everyone can just help each other out. Because I follow other channels, but I know by the time I go through it, maybe the process has changed. So it's nice that I share, like, the process I went through to help you. Then whenever you go through it, maybe you share it with the next batch of people to come down. Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to check in with the live stream, and everyone enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Adios. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me know whenever you make it. Thank you, guys. Adios.